The payment arrived in a locked iron chest, 500 gold coins stamped with a symbol I'd never seen, a serpent eating its own tail. The scroll inside held 3 rules written in dried blood. Keep the helmet on. Do not speak to the prisoner. Ask no questions about what you guard. I should have burned the contract right there. The desert temple stood alone, half buried in sand that had been blowing for 1,000 years. 2 silent guards in black cloaks waited at the entrance. They didn't ask my name. Just checked the seal on my wrist, handed me a bronze helmet that smelled of old iron, and pointed toward the stone archway leading down. The stairs descended deep into darkness. Too deep. The air grew cold despite the desert heat above. Torches lined the walls, but their flames didn't flicker. They burned still and silent, casting shadows that didn't move. At the bottom, a chamber carved from black stone, and in the center, chains thicker than my arm. She sat motionless, wrists locked to the ceiling by iron cuffs, serpents coiled around her head like a living crown. Her eyes were hidden behind a bronze mask, but I felt her attention the instant I crossed the threshold. The serpents stirred, barely, their scales catching torchlight like liquid silver. You may begin your watch. The voice came from somewhere above, echoing down through cracks in the stone. Remember the rules. Speak to her, and the contract is void. Remove the helmet and... Your father broke his oath. Her voice slipped through the air like smoke. Calm, certain, soft enough that whoever watched from above wouldn't hear. I went rigid. Marcus Webb, she continued. Your father's name was Samuel Webb. He died 12 years ago at a place called Crucible Junction. They told you it was an ambush. They told you he died with honor. My throat tightened. Crucible Junction had been erased. No records, no witnesses. I'd spent years searching for anyone who remembered it even existed. He didn't die in battle, she whispered. He died because of me. The serpents began to move, slowly uncoiling like they were waking from ancient sleep. How do you? Silence, the voice thundered from above. Webb, do not engage the prisoner. I bit down hard, fists clenched. Every instinct screamed to rip off the helmet and demand answers. But the rules were absolute. Break them, and the gold turns to sand, like my father. Footsteps echoed above. Then a different voice, older and colder than stone. Webb, you've been chosen for escort duty. The prisoner moves north in 2 days. You'll accompany the caravan to the mountain shrine. Your payment will be tripled. Silence fell again. I stared at her through the bronze visor. She hadn't moved, but the serpents were fully awake now, watching me with black glass eyes. They're not moving me, she said quietly. They're taking me somewhere to die, just like they did to your father when he tried to save me the first time. The torches dimmed. You have 2 days to decide if you're your father's son. I waited until the guards changed at midnight. The archive chamber was forbidden, sealed with wax and iron locks that hadn't been opened in years. But I'd learned to pick locks before I learned to read. The scrolls inside were ancient, wrapped in black cloth and stacked in stone alcoves. I searched by torchlight, fingers trembling, until I found the execution records from 12 years ago. Samuel Webb, guardian, rank, oathkeeper. Crime, treason against the order. Sentence, public execution at dawn. My hands shook as I unrolled the next scroll. It was a witness account written in tight, angry script. Guardian Webb aided the prisoner's escape on the night of the blood moon. He removed her chains and opened the eastern gate. She was captured within 3 miles. Webb did not resist arrest. He knew the consequence. He accepted it. The next line burned into my mind. He said, "My son will understand one day. Someone from my blood will finish what I couldn't." I couldn't breathe. My father hadn't died in an ambush. He'd been executed in front of the entire order because he tried to save her. And they'd lied to me ever since. At dawn, the caravan assembled. 4 wagons, 12 armed guards, and a cage made of blessed iron. They moved her into it before sunrise, chains clinking in the cold air. I rode beside the cage, helmet locked tight, watching her through the bars. For hours, we traveled in silence across the desert. The sun climbed. The sand stretched endlessly. Then, quietly, she spoke. "Your father didn't believe I was a monster," she said. "He listened when no one else would. I told him my story, how I was cursed for refusing a god's advance, how I was hunted for a crime I didn't commit. He believed me." I glanced at the guards. None of them heard. The wind and the wagon wheels covered her voice. "He knew they'd kill him," she continued, "but he said his son would grow up stronger than he was, smarter, and when the time came, you'd have a choice he never got." My throat tightened. "Why me? Why now?" "Because the order doesn't take chances twice," she whispered. "They hired you to see if you'd break like he did. If you pass their test, you prove the bloodline is loyal. If you fail..." She didn't finish. I looked ahead at the mountain pass rising in the distance, jagged and dark against the sky. "Where are they really taking you?" I asked. Her serpents coiled tighter. "To the place where they erase mistakes." The mountain pass swallowed us whole. Snow replaced sand, and the air turned knife-sharp. By the 3rd day, my breath formed clouds even inside the helmet. That's when the riders appeared. They came from the rocks above. 20 men on black horses, armor polished to a mirror shine, swords strapped across their backs. They didn't greet us, didn't speak, just fell into formation around the caravan, boxing us in. "Reinforcements," the lead guard grunted. "Standard procedure for high-risk cargo." But their weapons weren't sheathed, and their eyes never left the cage. That night, we camped at the base of a cliff. The snow shrine loomed above us, a structure of white stone and iron spikes, ancient and cold. The guards built fires, but the riders stayed mounted, watching the tree line. I crouched near the cage, pretending to check the locks. "You see it now, don't you?" she whispered. I glanced at the riders, at their swords, at the way they positioned themselves not for defense, but for containment. "They're not here to protect the caravan," I said quietly. "No," she replied. "They're here to make sure nothing escapes." My stomach twisted. "The shrine is an execution ground," she finished. "The order doesn't relocate prisoners like me, Marcus. They parade us through the desert so everyone sees the chains. Then they take us somewhere remote and erase us. No witnesses, no records, just gone." I looked up at the shrine. In the moonlight, I could see dark stains on the stone steps. Old stains. Too many to count. "My father knew," I whispered. "He did," she said. "That's why he tried to save me. And that's why they're watching you so carefully now. They want to see if you'll break the same way." A horn sounded in the distance, long and low. Then another, from the opposite side of the pass. The riders stiffened. Hands moved to sword hilts. "What was that?" I asked. She met my eyes through the mask. "Hunters. They've been tracking us since the desert. They seal the exits before the execution so nothing gets away. Not me, and not you, if you make the wrong choice." More horns echoed through the mountains, north, south, east. The pass was surrounded. The lead guard walked over, hand on his sword. "Get some rest, Webb. Tomorrow we reach the shrine. Your contract ends at dawn." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. One way or another. They came for her an hour before dawn. 6 guards in ceremonial robes, carrying torches and iron hooks. They dragged the cage up the shrine steps, chanting words in a language older than stone. The riders formed a circle around the structure, blocking every path down the mountain. I followed behind, helmet still locked, heart pounding against my ribs. Inside the shrine, they chained her to an altar carved with symbols I didn't recognize. The lead guard turned to me, holding out a ceremonial blade. "As witness, you'll make the first cut," he said. "Tradition for the son of a traitor proves loyalty." I stared at the blade, at her, at my father's choice staring back at me. I took the knife, then I drove it into the chain instead. The iron shattered, blessed metal screamed as it broke. Before anyone could react, I ripped off my helmet and swung it into the nearest torch bracket. Fire spilled across oil-soaked wood, lining the shrine walls. "Run!" I shouted. She moved like lightning, serpents lashing out, guards stumbling back, hands raised to shield their eyes. I grabbed her arm and we crashed through the back wall, rotted wood that exploded outward into snow. Behind us, flames consumed the shrine. Above us, the mountain groaned. "The support beams!" she yelled. The avalanche hit like the fist of an angry god. Snow and rock roared down the mountainside, swallowing the shrine, the riders, everything. We ran ahead of it, legs burning, lungs screaming, until the thunder finally faded behind us. By dawn, we were miles into the wilderness, but the horns had already started, echoing across peaks, coordinating the hunt. I saw smoke signals rising in the distance, dogs barking somewhere below. Every road sealed. "They'll never stop," she said, breath clouding in the frozen air. "Once a guardian breaks ranks, the order marks them. Your father never told you because he thought you'd be spared if you didn't know." I looked back at the mountains, at the hunters spreading like a net. "What's the mark?" I asked. She touched my wrist where the seal had been burned. It was changing, darkening, twisting into something new. "A brand that never fades," she said quietly. "Every tracker, every bounty hunter, every loyalist will know what you are." We kept moving. No destination, no allies, no map to guide us. Just distance and the borderlands ahead. A place where the order's reach grew thin, but never disappeared. Behind us, more horns sounded. Ahead, only wilderness and the choice my father made 12 years ago. The choice I'd just made mine.